If you are watching this, do not try to find me, and whatever you do, never, ever look up the Morningstar Sanctuary. My name is Sarah. I'm 22. Last month, I was a senior at UCLA. I had 2,000 followers on Instagram, a minor caffeine addiction, and the usual existential dread about student loans. Today, I haven't slept in 72 hours. I have a tracking device under the skin of my left wrist, and 3 days ago, I watched a woman drink her own reflection. I need to tell you what happened because the police won't believe me. They think I'm just another runaway. But the scariest part isn't that I joined a cult. It's that for 1 week, it felt like home. It started with a bad breakup. You know the kind. You're alone in a studio apartment, scrolling TikTok at 2 a.m., feeling like the universe has singled you out for misery. That's when the algorithm showed me her, Elena, a perfect, glowing girl with silver hair and eyes that looked like honey. She had a video titled, "I cured my anxiety in 7 days. Here's how." In the video, she didn't scream or dance. She just sat in a field of white flowers. She whispered, "You are not broken. You are just wearing a mask. Let us help you take it off." It was an ad for the Morningstar Sanctuary, a spiritual healing commune in the redwood forests of Northern California. No phones, no judgment, just yoga, organic food, and soul realignment. The website was beautiful, minimalist, white backgrounds, quotes like, "The ego is the prison, we are the key." I signed up that night. It cost $1,500 for 2 weeks. I drained my savings. I told my mom I was going to a library retreat. The drive was 4 hours past the last gas station. The pavement turned to dirt. Then the dirt turned to mud. Then I saw the gate. It wasn't a fence. It was a circle of black mirrors standing in the forest, each one facing inward. No guards, no barbed wire, just silence. Elena was waiting for me. She hugged me like she'd known me for 10 years. "Welcome home, Sarah," she whispered. "You're finally awake." That was the first lie. The first 3 days were paradise. I swear it was better than any 5-star resort. We slept in wooden cabins with heated floors. We ate soup made from mushrooms that tasted like chocolate. There were no clocks, no mirrors. They said mirrors trap the false self. I met the other seekers, a nurse from Ohio, a tech CEO who sold his company, a teenage boy who hadn't spoken in 2 years. And then I met the guide. His name was Silas. He didn't walk, he glided. He spoke in a whisper that felt like fingers crawling up your spine. On day 3, he gave a lecture in the barn. He said, "The world outside is a war. They want you to be ugly, lonely, afraid. But here, we are a family, and family shares everything." That night, they asked us to give up our phones. I hesitated for 1 second, but Elena smiled at me. She held my hand. "Trust us," she said. I handed over my iPhone, my laptop, my watch. The moment the metal box closed on my belongings, the temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. I remember thinking, that's strange. But then Silas offered me a cup of blue tea. "Chamomile," he said. I drank it. The tea did not taste like chamomile. I woke up the next morning in a basement. Not a cabin, a basement. Concrete floor, a single red light bulb. My clothes were gone. I was wearing a gray wool shift and around my neck a leather collar. Not a necklace, a collar, like a dog. The nurse from Ohio was on the floor next to me. She was crying silently. I asked her what happened. She pulled up her sleeve. Her arm was covered in intricate scars, not cuts, symbols, stars inside of hexagons. She whispered, "The binding ceremony. You don't remember because of the tea, but you walked in. You said, 'I consent.' I didn't remember, but I looked at my own wrist. There it was, a fresh raised scar, a single eye carved into my skin. That was day 4. Day 5, they explained the rules. Rule 1, there is no me, only we. Rule 2, the guide speaks for the Morningstar. Rule 3, to leave, you must hollow out your heart. I thought they meant emotionally. I was wrong. On day 6, I saw the soul room. Elena took me there as a reward for good behavior. It was a steel door at the end of the maintenance corridor. No handle. She knocked 6 times. Slow. The door opened. Inside, there were no lights, but my eyes adjusted. There were people, or there used to be people. They were sitting in chairs facing a central mirror. Their mouths were sewn shut with fishing line. Their eyes were wide open, but they weren't looking. Their pupils were rolled back. They were alive. They were breathing, but they were empty. Elena put her hand on my shoulder. Her fingernails were dirty. She whispered, "These are the ones who tried to leave." The guide removed their souls so they wouldn't have to suffer the pain of missing us. See? They're peaceful now. I looked at the central mirror. It wasn't reflecting the room. It was reflecting nothing, just gray static. I realized that mirror was eating their identities, bite by bite. I started screaming. Silas appeared behind me. He didn't look angry. He looked hungry. "Sarah," he said in that whisper, "you've seen the family secret. That means you want to stay forever, don't you?" I ran through the compound. Nobody chased me. That was the worst part. They just stood in doorways, smiling. I reached the gate, the black mirrors. I looked at my reflection in one of them. For the first time in a week, I saw my own face. But my reflection was wrong. It was smiling. I was not smiling. My reflection mouthed 3 words. "Come back inside." I smashed the mirror with a rock. Behind it, there was no glass, no silver, just a hole that led straight into the forest. I fell through. I landed in poison oak. I ran barefoot for 4 miles. I found a motel, a real one. I called the police. They drove out there. They found empty cabins, a stack of blue teacups, and a lot of white linen robes. No Elena, no Silas, no soul room. Just a basement with a concrete floor and a single red light bulb. The officer told me, "Ma'am, you're dehydrated. Maybe you hallucinated." But you know what I found when I got back to my apartment? My laptop was open, my email was logged in, and there was a scheduled draft sent to my mom, from me. It said, "Don't look for me. I'm safe. I love it here." I didn't write that. And last night, I saw a white van parked across the street, the same van from the retreat. The driver was Elena. She waved at me. And the worst part? I waved back. If you see the Morningstar symbol, run the other way and pray they don't wave at you. first. My name is Maya. I am 24 years old, and I am currently sitting in a motel bathroom in rural Oregon with a box cutter in my hand. Not to hurt myself, to cut something out of my leg. If you find this recording, do not look for my body. Look for a place called the Honeycomb, but I'm getting ahead of myself. 6 months ago, I was a grad student at University of Washington. I studied anthropology, which is ironic because I never thought I would become a case study. I was lonely. Classic story. My father had just died. My mother was in a nursing home with early onset Alzheimer's. I had no siblings, no boyfriend, just a thesis on urban decay and a half-empty bottle of Zoloft. One night I saw a flyer taped to a lamppost near Pike Place Market. It was a piece of yellowed paper, handwritten. It said, "Are you tired of being alone? Come to the dinner. Every Friday, no judgment, no cost, just food and family." There was an address, a basement in the International District. I went because I hadn't eaten a home-cooked meal in 3 weeks. The basement was warm, smelled like rosemary and old wood. There were about 15 people sitting at a long table, old, young, a man in a business suit next to a woman with face tattoos. At the head of the table sat a woman they called Mother Jude. Mother Jude looked like someone's kindly grandmother. Gray bun, wire rim glasses, floral dress. But her eyes were wrong. They were too dark. Not brown, not black, just absence. Like someone had drilled 2 holes into her skull and you were looking into an empty closet. She served us stew. It was delicious. Best thing I ever ate. It tasted like beef, but richer, sweeter. I asked her what the meat was. She smiled and said, "Communion." I laughed. Nobody else laughed. I went back the next Friday, and the next. The stew was always different. Sometimes gamey, sometimes fatty, always perfect. The other diners started to recognize me. They called me Little Bird, because I was small and always pecking at my food. It felt good to have a nickname. It felt good to belong. On my 4th week, Mother Jude asked me to stay after. She took me to a back room. There were no windows, just a single cot, a sink, and a mirror. But the mirror was covered with a white sheet. She said, "Little Bird, you have a hole in your heart. We can fill it, but you have to trust us. Leave your phone, leave your apartment key, leave your name. Stay here for 1 month, and then you will never be lonely again." I said yes, because loneliness is a horror movie that doesn't need monsters. It just needs silence. The first week in the Honeycomb, as they called it, was bliss. I shared a room with 3 other girls. We braided each other's hair. We sang songs before bed. Mother Jude read us stories from a handwritten book called The Book of Hunger. It was about a God who lived in the walls, a God who only wanted to be loved, and the only way to love him was to feed him. "Feed him what?" I asked. Mother Jude touched my cheek. Her fingers were cold, ice cold. "Your sadness," she said, "your fear, your memories. He eats them, and in return, he gives you peace." I wanted peace more than anything, so I let them begin the feedings. Every night at midnight, we would gather in a circle in the basement. The lights would go out, and we would chant, "Take my hunger, take my hurt, take my name, take my birth." And then we would each drink a shot glass of something dark, thick, like molasses but warm. It tasted like copper. After a week, I started to forget things, small things. my mother's middle name, the street I grew up on, the smell of rain. I thought it was stress, but then I tried to remember my father's face, and all I saw was a gray blur, like someone had erased him with a digital brush. I told Mother Jude. She smiled. "It's working," she said. "The God is eating your loneliness. Soon you will be empty, and emptiness is freedom." I believed her, because by week 2 I had stopped missing my phone. By week 3 I had stopped missing my apartment. By week 4 I had stopped missing myself. But here's the thing about emptiness. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you hollow out a person, something else will move in. On night 29, I woke up at 3 a.m. I was not in my cot. I was in the basement, alone. But I wasn't alone. I could hear breathing behind the walls, wet breathing, like a dog licking its lips. The lights flickered, and then I saw the mirror. The sheet had been removed. The mirror was not reflecting the room. It was reflecting a different room, a room made of bone, white bone walls, a floor of teeth. And in the center of that room, sitting in a chair made of rib cages, was a figure. It had the shape of a man, but its skin was translucent. I could see its organs moving. Its heart was not a heart. It was a human hand, clenching and unclenching. The figure spoke, but its mouth did not move. The voice came from inside my own skull. It said, "You taste like grief. I haven't had grief in 100 years." I tried to scream. Nothing came out. I tried to run. My legs would not move. The figure raised one finger, and suddenly I felt a tearing sensation in my chest. Not physical, spiritual, like someone was pulling a thread from my soul. I watched in the mirror as a thin silver string came out of my sternum. It floated through the air, and the figure ate it. Like spaghetti, it slurped. When it finished, I collapsed. I remembered nothing from before I was 15. My childhood, gone. My first kiss, gone. My father's funeral, gone. All of it, eaten. I woke up in my cot the next morning. Mother Jude was sitting next to me. She was stroking my hair. She said, "The God likes you, little bird. He says you have a lot of meat on your psyche. He wants to keep you forever." That is when I realized I was not a member of this cult. I was livestock. I pretended to be grateful. I smiled. I ate their stew. I chanted their chants. But inside, I started planning. The problem was, I couldn't remember how to get out. They had eaten my spatial memory. I didn't know where the exit was. I didn't know what city I was in. I was a cow in a slaughterhouse wearing a human face. On night 35, I found the truth. I was looking for a bathroom on the second floor. I opened a door that was locked with a padlock. The padlock was old, rusty. I kicked it. It broke. Inside was a walk-in freezer. Not for food, for bodies. 15 of them, hanging from hooks by their heels. They were all young women, all wearing gray shifts like mine. Their eyes were open, their mouths were sewn shut. But they were not dead. They were breathing, shallow, slow. One of them was the girl who braided my hair. Her name was Lily. She was hanging next to a meat scale. Her stomach had been cut open, not with a knife, with fingers. I could see the prints. Inside her abdominal cavity, there was no organs, just a black, writhing mass, like eels, like shadows given teeth. I turned to run. Mother Jude was standing behind me. No footsteps, no breath, just there. She said, "You weren't supposed to see the larder until your 40th day. Now we have to harvest you early." She grabbed my arm. Her grip was not human. It was cold, cold like the freezer. I felt her fingernails dig into my skin. And then I felt something else, the God inside her. It was trying to climb out through her pores. I saw her skin ripple, saw a face press against the inside of her cheek, a face with too many eyes. I did the only thing I could think of. I bit her, not her arm, her face. I sank my teeth into her left cheek and tore. The skin came off like wet paper. Underneath, there was no muscle, no bone, just a honeycomb, a hexagonal grid of holes. Each hole had an eye. Each eye was looking at me. She screamed, but the scream came from every direction at once. The walls screamed, the floor screamed, the hanging girls screamed without mouths. I ran through the house. I smashed a window with a chair. I jumped. The glass cut my legs. I landed in a back alley. There was snow. It was night. I didn't know where I was. I just ran. I ran until my feet were raw. I ran until I found a highway. I hitchhiked. A truck driver picked me up. He asked me my name. I couldn't remember. He asked me where I was going. I couldn't remember. He dropped me at a police station in Eugene, Oregon. The police ran my prints. They found my missing person report from Seattle. They called my emergency contact. There was none. They called the address I gave them, the basement in the International District. It was a laundromat. It had always been a laundromat. They sent officers to the house in the woods, the house with the freezer, the house with the honeycomb. They found nothing, just an empty lot, bare dirt, not even a foundation. But they did find something on my leg, a scar in the shape of a hexagon. And when they pressed on it, I screamed, because inside that scar I could feel something moving, something small, something hungry. The doctor at the Hom said it was a cyst. He scheduled surgery to remove it. That was this morning. But last night I looked at the scar with a magnifying mirror, and I saw that the hexagon was not just a scar. It was a door, a tiny door, and it was opening. That's why I have the box cutter. I'm not waiting for surgery. I'm cutting it out myself, right out. If you're listening to this, I probably didn't make it. But if you want to find Mother Jude, look for a basement that smells with rosemary. Look for a flyer that looks too old to be new, and of the good of God, do not eat the stew. Your God in the courage is your, and it is your about of famness, especially for your lonely girls, the holes. This to Maya, signing off. I hope you never'th with the family.
I found the listing by accident. It wasn't on the dark web like people imagine. No black screen, no creepy fonts, just a normal looking forum. White background, clean layout, almost boring, which made it worse. Most listings were what you'd expect. Data scraping, fake accounts, reputation management. Then one post caught my attention. Behavioral persuasion services, no coercion, results-based payment. That wording stuck with me. No coercion. I clicked the profile. No name, no bio, just a PGP key and one word. Luther. Buried in an old thread, someone had asked what he actually did. His reply: I run a network. Some call it a cult. I should have closed the page. Instead, I messaged him. I wrote, I want to see if you can convince me to kill someone. No threats, no force. I didn't expect a reply. He answered in 2 hours, half up front, half if you follow through. We met the next night. The bar was nearly empty. Dim lighting, no music, just the sound of glasses and a TV playing something muted in the background. Luther wasn't what I expected. Late 20s, calm, slightly distracted, like he had somewhere else to be. Not intense, not charismatic, just normal. That made me lower my guard. He ordered water, I ordered whiskey. He didn't drink. He just watched me. Not staring, just observing. Like I was a clock he was reading. He asked simple questions at first. Where I grew up, whether I had ever hurt an animal as a child, whether I had ever fantasized about hurting a person. I lied to the last one. He smiled. He knew. Then he placed 3 folders in front of me. Inside were crimes, photographs, medical reports, witness statements, realistic, detailed, enough to make my stomach turn. I had to stop halfway through the second one. The 3rd folder was open. I saw a face, a man, middle-aged, smiling at a birthday party. The caption underneath said, acquitted, all charges dropped, technicality. Which one is worst, he asked. The 3rd, I said. Do you think he deserves to die? I looked at the photograph again, at the smile, at the cake with candles, at the little girl sitting on his lap. Her eyes were empty. I knew that look. I had seen it in my own mirror. Yes, I said, he deserves to die. Then he slid a phone toward me. 3 red buttons. Each one is connected to a device, he said. You press it. Someone dies. I almost laughed. It sounded ridiculous, like a movie prop. But then he said something that stuck. They're all being released tomorrow, all 3 of them, walking free. And then he named the charges, each one worse than the last, each one involving children, each one buried by money and lawyers. I froze. I didn't believe him, but I did not believe him either. That was enough. I told myself it wasn't real, that pressing a button wasn't the same as killing someone, that it was just a test. My hand moved before I fully decided. I pressed all 3. Nothing happened. No sound and no reaction. Just silence. Then Luther said, you didn't kill anyone. Relief hit first, then confusion, then something worse, but you were willing to. He leaned forward. His eyes changed, not in color, in depth, like I was looking down a well. He said, do you want to know what happened to those 3 men? I nodded. Nothing. They were never in custody. They were never charged. The photographs were real, the crimes were real, but the men are still alive, still free, still smiling at birthday parties. I pressed the buttons for nothing. He paused. Or did you? That's when everything changed, because he opened his laptop, turned it toward me, a live feed, a room, 3 chairs, 3 men, the same 3 faces from the folders. They were tied up, gagged, awake. Their eyes were wide. The timestamp was live. I could see a clock on the wall. It matched my phone, he said. The buttons didn't kill them, but your willingness did. Because now I know what you are, and I have a different offer. I should have run. I should have smashed the laptop and never looked back. But I didn't, because in that moment I realized something horrifying. I wasn't scared. I was excited. My heart was pounding, my palms were sweating, not from fear, from anticipation. Luther saw it. He always saw it. He closed the laptop and said, tomorrow night, a warehouse on Ellison Avenue at 9 p.m. Don't be late. Then he left. I sat in the empty bar for an hour, staring at my hands, wondering when they had stopped being mine. The next envelope came under my apartment door. No knock, no footsteps, just a manila envelope on the floor mat. Inside, a route, a time, a blind spot between cameras, official-looking documents, a floor plan, a key card. Everything checked out too perfectly. There was also a photograph. The man from folder 3. He was at a restaurant, laughing. The back of the photograph said, "Dessert." I could have walked away. I didn't. The next day, I was there. Warehouse on Elston, 9 p.m. The door was unlocked. Inside, a single chair, a gun on a table. Luther was standing in the corner. He didn't speak. He just pointed to a door on the far wall. Behind it, I could hear muffled breathing. A man's voice, pleading. I walked toward the door. My hands were steady. No thoughts, no panic, just quiet. I opened the door. He was there. The man from the photograph, tied to a pipe. His gag had slipped. He was crying, begging. He said he had a daughter. He said he was innocent. I looked at his eyes. I have studied eyes my whole life. I know when someone is lying. He was not lying about his daughter. He was lying about everything else. I picked up the gun. It was cold, heavy, real. I hesitated for maybe a second. Then I pulled the trigger. The sound was deafening. The recoil bit my palm. He fell sideways, not dead. He was screaming. The bullet had hit his shoulder. Blood was everywhere, dark, almost black in the low light. He was still alive, still begging, still crying. That's when I heard the voice behind me. "He's not dead," Luther said, standing there like he'd been waiting the whole time. "What happens next is your choice, or your nature." I looked at the man, at his shoulder, at the blood pooling on the concrete, and I felt something. Not guilt, not horror, hunger, a deep, gnawing hunger I had never felt before. It was the same feeling I had as a child when I watched a cat play with a mouse before killing it. I had pretended to be disgusted, but I wasn't. I was fascinated. I knelt down next to him. He looked at me. His eyes said, "Please." My eyes said nothing. What happened next? I won't describe in detail, but I'll say this. I didn't stop. Not because Luther told me to, because I wanted to, because for the first time in my life, I felt awake. Every time I pulled the trigger, every time he screamed, I felt a layer of something peel away from my soul. Something fake, something I had been wearing since childhood. The mask of a good person. By the end, he wasn't screaming anymore. Neither was I. I was smiling. After it was over, I couldn't stop looking at my hands. They were red, wet, shaking, but not from fear. From adrenaline, from joy. I kept expecting to feel something else. Guilt, remorse, anything. There was nothing, just a quiet hum. Like a refrigerator, like something inside me had finally been plugged in. Luther handed me a towel. I wiped my hands. The towel turned pink, then red, then brown. He said, "You passed?" That's when I asked him the question. "If I asked you to make me do anything, could you?" He looked at me for a long time. The warehouse was silent except for a drip, drip, drip. The man's blood was still moving, still warm. Luther said, "You didn't come to me to become something else. You came to confirm what you already are." He handed me a card. Black, no text, just a symbol. A circle inside a triangle inside a square. I didn't recognize it, but my hand closed around it like it belonged there. He said, "There are others like you. Not many, but enough. We don't recruit. We identify. The forum, the listing, the buttons. It wasn't a test of your morality. It was a test of your absence of it, and you scored perfectly." I went home, sat in the dark, then I opened my contacts, scrolled through names, friends, coworkers, ex-boyfriends, people I owed money, people who owed me, people who had wronged me in small, forgettable ways. Their names started standing out, not as people, as targets, as opportunities. People who would understand? No. People who wouldn't hesitate? People like me. That's when it hit me. This wasn't recruitment. He didn't choose me, he identified me. Like a blood test identifies a disease, and somehow that's worse because I can't blame him. I can't blame the forum. I can't blame the buttons or the photographs or the warehouse. I can only blame the mirror. And the person looking back at me, the person who smiled while a man died, the person who is smiling right now recording this. If you're listening to this, I'm not sorry. I'm grateful. Luther gave me permission to stop pretending. And now I'm giving you the same gift. Look at your hands. Look at your own reflection. Ask yourself honestly, if no one was watching, if there were no consequences, what would you do? Who would you become? The answer is already inside you. You just haven't pressed the button yet. My name is not important, but Luther's network is real. And if you're lonely enough, angry enough, empty enough, you'll find it, or it will find you. The forum is still there, the listing is still up, and somewhere right now a girl is scrolling past it, thinking it's just a story, just like you. I hope she closes the page, but I know she won't, because the hungry ones never do. We press the button every single time.